We were married for exactly 5 years, and for 5 years, I thought I was living the modern American dream. Perfect townhouse in North Carolina, shared goals, and a joint bank account that we both supposedly used to build our future. My name is Maya, I'm 28, and I work as a digital growth strategist, which means I spend my entire day looking at numbers, data, and tracking trends. But apparently I was completely blind to the toxic tracking happening right under my own roof. My husband, Tyler, was the classic charming golden retriever guy. Everyone loved him. He was a high school gym coach, always talking about teamwork, integrity, and loyalty. He didn't make much, but I never cared about the paycheck. I made more than enough for both of us, and I was happy to majorly fund our lifestyle, buy the groceries, and cover the heavy bills. I trusted him with everything, especially with our money. The first rule of a joint account? You don't hide transactions. But Tyler didn't just hide them. He spent 5 years running an absolute masterclass in financial gaslighting. Every single month, our savings seemed just a little bit lower than my data models predicted. Whenever I brought it up and asked why the math wasn't adding up, Tyler would smooth it over with that boyish, dimpled smile of his. "Oh, babe, you know inflation is crazy right now." Or, "The grocery bills are just out of control this term. Let me handle the budget next month so you don't stress your pretty head." And because I loved him, and because I was utterly exhausted from 60-hour work weeks running campaigns, I let him handle it. I chose peace over conflict. Big mistake. Huge. The bomb dropped right on our 5th anniversary. Tyler was out at a regional coaches conference for the weekend, and I stayed home, deciding to clean out our home office to finally set up a new desk. While moving his old, dusty filing cabinet, a thick black leather planner slid out from the back and hit the floor. It wasn't encrypted. It wasn't locked. It was just sitting there, open to a random page. And inside, Tyler had kept a meticulous, line-by-line handwritten record of every single dollar he had borrowed from our joint account over the last 5 years. He wasn't using it for groceries, honey. He wasn't using it to battle inflation. Every single month, like clockwork, Tyler was withdrawing between $800 and $1,200 in cash, transferring small amounts to a hidden Venmo account, and funding a completely separate life. There were names written in that book. Dates, luxury hotel bookings, expensive jewelry receipts, cash drops for a secret side piece named Chloe that he'd been seeing since before we even got our marriage license. He'd spent over $55,000 of my money buying gifts, paying rent, and playing house with another woman, while I was pulling all-nighters to pay our actual mortgage. I sat on the hardwood floor of that empty office, staring at his neat handwriting, and my hands started to shake. Not from sadness, not from heartbreak. It was from pure, freezing, calculated rage. 5 years of being told I was crazy for questioning the math. 5 years of his fake, supportive smiles. Welcome back to Aunt Karma stories, where the boyfriends and husbands who think they're financial geniuses always forget that the audit is coming. Stay with me until the end to see the exact moment his little house of cards crashed. Drop a comment with your thoughts, and make sure you're subscribed, because the trap I set next was beautiful. I didn't call him screaming. I didn't send a furious text that would give away my hand. Instead, I grabbed my phone, took crystal-clear photos of every single page in that black book, uploaded them to a secure cloud drive, and then put the book exactly back where I found it behind the cabinet. Tyler was coming home the next evening, expecting an anniversary dinner, a home-cooked meal, and a compliant wife. Instead, he was about to get a front-row seat to a master class in cosmic karma. But before I show you how I laid the trap, I need to tell you about his mother, Brenda. Because Tyler didn't become a spineless parasite overnight, he was raised by the expert herself. When Tyler walked through the door the next evening, he had that classic dimpled smile on his face and a bunch of cheap grocery store roses in his hand. "Happy 5 years, beautiful," he said, leaning in for a kiss. I let his lips touch my cheek, but mentally I was already counting down his final hours. "Happy anniversary, babe. Put the flowers in a vase. Your mom is on her way over." His smile flickered for a fraction of a second. "Brenda, tonight, I thought it was just going to be the two of us." "Oh, come on," I said, putting on my best, sweet, supportive wife voice. You know how much your mom loves celebrating your milestones. Plus, she helped you manage the household bills last winter when we were so short, right? She deserves a seat at the table. See, Tyler's mother, Brenda, was the queen of the family hierarchy. She lived in a tiny, overpriced apartment that Tyler secretly helped pay for, and she treated me like I was a glorified ATM that happened to live with her son. Every time she visited, she'd make slick comments about how my career kept me away from wifely duties, while simultaneously asking if I could cover her lease renewal. Tyler always took her side, whispering that I should just choose easier and avoid the drama. At 7:00 p.m. sharp, Brenda arrived, smelling of cheap perfume and carrying an aura of pure condescension. We sat down at the dining table. I had prepared a beautiful steak dinner, but the real main course was sitting inside a plain manila folder right next to my placemat. "What's in the folder, Maya?" Brenda asked, eyes narrowing as she took a sip of the wine I bought. "Don't tell me you brought work to your anniversary dinner." "In a way, Brenda, it is work," I smiled, looking over at Tyler. He was cutting his steak, completely oblivious, still playing the golden retriever. "You see, Tyler, I know how stressed you've been about inflation. You've been telling me for years that our savings are dropping because life is just getting too expensive. And since I'm a growth strategist, I decided to do a little deep dive audit of our joint account as an anniversary gift to us." Tyler froze. His knife scraped against the porcelain plate, making a sharp, horrible sound. "Baby, you didn't have to do that. I told you I have the budget under control." "Oh, but you don't, Tyler," I said, my voice dropping the sweetness and turning into pure ice. I opened the folder. "According to our bank data, over the last 60 months, exactly $55,400 has disappeared from our joint account in clean, untraceable cash withdrawals and hidden Venmo transfers. That's almost $1,000 a month." Brenda scoffed, setting her glass down. "Well, Maya, marriage is expensive. Tyler has to manage the household. You're always working, so you probably just don't see the hidden costs." "Shut up, Brenda," I said calmly. The room went dead silent. Brenda's mouth dropped open like a hooked fish. Tyler went completely pale, his hands starting to shake on the table, looking exactly like the terrified, panicked guy on our channel's preview. "Maya, what are you doing?" Tyler stammered, his voice cracking. "Why are you acting like this on our anniversary?" "I'm not acting, Tyler. I'm auditing," I said, pulling out the first stack of printed pages. "These are high-resolution photos of your secret black leather notebook, the one behind the filing cabinet, the one where you kept a line-by-line record of every single dollar you stole from me." I slid the first page across the table. It was a photo of his entry from 14 months ago, $1,200 cash withdrawal, Chloe's apartment deposit. I slid the second page, $450, weekend getaway at the Ritz with Chloe. I slid the third page, $300, coach's conference jewelry purchase, Chloe's necklace. Tyler looked at the papers, and the floor completely disappeared beneath him. The boyish charm evaporated, leaving nothing but a sweating, caught parasite. He opened his mouth to lie, to gaslight, to run his usual routine, but the data was ironclad. Who is Chloe?" Brenda asked, her voice losing its arrogance as she looked at the photos of her son's handwriting. "Chloe is the woman Tyler has been funding with my 60-hour work weeks," I said, looking directly into my husband's hollow eyes. "He's been playing house with her since before we signed our marriage license. And you, Brenda, have been cheering him on, telling him to take my money because I don't understand family values." "Maya, please," Tyler choked out, tears finally welling up in his eyes. "It was a mistake. I was lonely. You're always focused on your career. I didn't know how to talk to you. Please, we can fix this. It's just money." "It is just money, Tyler," I whispered, leaning forward so he could feel the absolute finality in my words. "But it's my money. And you forgot the golden rule of social math. When you treat a smart woman like a fool, you better make sure she doesn't hold the K." To the kingdom. The silence in the dining room was so thick you could hear the ice melting in Brenda's wine glass. Tyler sat frozen, staring at the high-resolution photo of his own handwriting. $450, weekend getaway at the Ritz with Chloe. His breathing was shallow, his chest rising and falling beneath his coach's polo shirt like a trapped animal trying to find an exit that didn't exist. "Tyler," Brenda whispered, her voice cracking as she looked from the paper to her son. "Tyler, tell her it's a mistake. Tell her this is from an old project or a joke. Tyler, speak to me." But Tyler couldn't speak. The dimples were gone. The golden retriever charm was completely submerged under a wave of cold, hard data. He looked up at me, his eyes bloodshot, searching my face for even a glimmer of the soft, accommodating wife he had been playing for 5 years. He found absolutely nothing. "Maya," he finally managed to croak out, his voice trembling. You went through my personal things. That book was private. You had no right to go looking through my office." "Oh, your office," I interrupted, letting out a sharp, mocking laugh that cut him off like a blade. "Let's fix that narrative right now, honey. We live in a townhouse that my digital marketing career paid the down payment for. Every single piece of furniture in that office, including the filing cabinet you hid your little cheating diary behind, was bought with my credit card. You don't have a single private square inch in this house that isn't subsidized by my 60-hour work weeks." Brenda slammed her hands down on the table, trying to regain her status as the family matriarch. "Now look here, Maya. Granted, Tyler made a massive misjudgment. He got confused. But you are his wife. Where's your grace? Where's your vow to stick together through thick and thin? Marriage isn't a corporate business balance sheet where you just delete someone the moment they slip up." I turned my eyes to Brenda, and she instantly took half a step back into her chair. "Don't talk to me about vows, Brenda," I said, my voice smooth, quiet, and deadly. "And definitely don't talk to me about balance sheets, because you've been living off mine for 3 winters. Do you think I didn't notice the extra $50 here and $100 there that Tyler was constantly moving around to help Mom with groceries? I chose to look the other way because I thought I was helping my family. But you knew exactly what your son was doing." "I did not," Brenda shrieked, her face turning a mottled, ugly red. "Really?" I smiled, pulling another document from the manila folder. This one wasn't a photo of the book. It was a printed spreadsheet of his hidden Venmo account transfers. Because according to the public transaction ledger on Tyler's secondary burner account, 3 months ago he transferred $800 to Chloe with the caption, "Cozy Weekend Planning." And exactly 10 minutes later, Tyler received a transfer from you, Brenda, for $200 with a winking face emoji. You weren't just avoiding the drama, Brenda. You were financing his getaway car. Brenda's mouth vanished. She looked down at her plate, her entire defensive posture collapsing into pure, exposed guilt. Tyler looked like he was about to pass out. He realized I hadn't just found a notebook. I had spent his entire weekend away performing a full-scale, military-grade digital audit of his entire existence. "Maya, listen to me," Tyler pleaded, tears finally spilling over his eyelids. He reached across the table, trying to grab my hands, but I pulled them back, leaving his fingers hovering uselessly in the air. "It's not what you think. Yes, I saw Chloe. Yes, I spent the money. But it was because I felt so worthless next to you. You're always winning. You're always getting promotions. You're always the one providing. I was just the gym coach. I felt like a ghost in my own home. Chloe made me feel like a man. She needed me." Welcome back to Aunt Karma Stories, honey, where the classic cheating parasite always tries to turn their own betrayal into a pity party about their fragile ego. Look at him. 5 years of systematically draining my bank account, and his defense is that my success made him do it. Drop a comment right now if you've ever heard a weaker excuse than a man blaming his wife's hard work for his own lack of morals. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table, looking directly into my husband's hollow eyes. "She needed you, Tyler," I asked, a dark smile playing on my lips. "That's funny, because during my little deep dive into Chloe's life, I decided to do a background check on her too. She lives a very glossy, high-end life. But do you want to know what the data says about Chloe, Tyler? She is married. Her husband is Marcus, a logistics manager who works 60 hours a week just like me, and he actually owns the apartment deposit you supposedly helped her with. Chloe doesn't need you, Tyler. She was using my marketing bonuses to buy herself designer bags and luxury rooms while keeping you as her boy toy on the side. You weren't a provider, honey. You were just her secret piggy bank." Tyler's jaw literally dropped. The room went completely silent again, save for the sound of his ragged breathing. His entire justification, His whole fantasy of being the big, protective man for another woman was shattered in a single second by a woman who actually tracks the data. "Maya, please," he stammered, reaching his shaking hands across the table again, his eyes darting toward the folder. "Don't do this. We've been together for 5 years. We can go to counseling. I'll pay it back. I swear to God I'll pay every cent back." "With what money, Tyler?" I asked, completely deadpan. "Your gym coach salary barely covers your car payment and your daily Starbucks habit. You couldn't pay me back if you lived to be 100. Brenda finally found her voice, switching instantly from high-end mighty matriarch to a desperate enabler. "Maya, okay, he made a horrible mistake. A sin, but you're his wife. You can't just throw away a marriage over a rough patch. Think about his reputation at the school, if this gets out." "Oh, Brenda, you should be much more worried about your own lease than his reputation," I interrupted, taking a slow sip of my wine. "What does my apartment have to do with this?" She snapped, her old defensive glare flashing for a second. "Because yesterday morning, right after I found the black book and realized exactly how much of my money was being drained, I took a little trip down to our bank. See, Tyler thought he was slick using a joint account, but he forgot that as a co-owner, I have full, unrestricted legal access to every single dime in there. And since I majorly funded 90% of that account, I decided to do a little rebalancing." Tyler's head snapped up. "What did you do, Maya?" "I closed the account, Tyler. I transferred the remaining $24,000, which was practically just my last 2 bonus checks anyway, into a private, locked account under my name only. Your Venmo is unlinked, your debit card is currently declined, and the overdraft protection is turned off." Tyler grabbed his phone from his pocket, his fingers frantically tapping on his banking app. I watched his eyes go wide as the screen loaded, showing a beautiful, flashing balance of exactly $0. "Maya, you wiped me out," he yelled, slamming his hand on the table. "I have bills due tomorrow, my car insurance, my phone. Go ask Chloe for the money," I shrugged. "Maybe she can refund you for the Ritz vacation you bought her with my client retainer money." Brenda stood up, her face red, pointing a manicured finger at me. "This is financial abuse. You can't leave my son with nothing." "You're a cold, heartless woman." "No, Brenda, I'm a growth strategist. I cut off the underperforming assets," I said, standing up to meet her gaze. "And speaking of assets, Tyler, you have exactly 2 hours to pack whatever fits into your duffel bags and get out of my townhouse." "Your townhouse?" Tyler choked out, tears running down his face. "We bought this place together." "No, honey, I put down the down payment and the mortgage is under my name." "You signed a quitclaim deed 3 years ago when we refinanced so your student debt wouldn't mess up our interest rate. Remember, you said it was teamwork. Well, the team just traded you." I walked over to the front door, opened it wide, and let the humid North Carolina night air fill the room. 2 hours, Tyler. If you or your mother are still here by 10:00 p.m., the police will be removing you for trespassing. And don't bother deleting your secret black book from the office. I already emailed a complete PDF copy of the receipts to the school board, the athletic department, and Chloe's husband. Yes, Tyler, she's married. Did you forget to audit that data too? The panic on his face turned into absolute, crushing reality. He realized his marriage was over, his secret life was deleted, his bank account was completely drained, and his job was on life support, all because he thought a quiet, hard-working woman wouldn't look at the numbers. Tyler slowly got up from the table, his head down, and walked toward the stairs to pack his things, while Brenda scurried out the front door without saying another word, looking like a total fraud. I walked back to the kitchen table, poured the rest of the expensive wine down the sink, and sat down in the quiet house. 5 years of gaslighting, cleared out in less than 30 minutes. That is the power of social math, honey. When you play games with a woman who knows her worth and tracks the data, the audit is going to hurt. But don't worry about Tyler. I'm sure he and Chloe can share a very designer life together on whatever he has left. But the story didn't just end with Tyler dragging his heavy duffel bags down my driveway, honey. When you pull the thread on a 5-year-old financial and emotional scam, the entire fabric of everyone's life starts to completely unravel. I sat on my couch that night, listening to the absolute silence of my townhouse, watching the clock tick past midnight. The air felt lighter, but the digital storm I had unleashed was just starting to make landfall. Around 1:00 a.m., my phone started buzzing violently on the coffee table. It was an unknown number from a local area code. I picked it up, expecting Tyler using a burner or a friend's phone, but instead, a deep, incredibly exhausted male voice came through the speaker. "Maya, is this Maya?" the voice asked. I sat up straight. "Yes, who is this?" The man let out a long, ragged breath. "My name is Marcus. I'm Chloe's husband." I just open-sourced the PDF file you sent to my work email. I don't even know what to say. I thought she was at a corporate real estate retreat that weekend. I literally dropped her off at the airport. I felt a sudden wave of genuine empathy for this stranger. He was exactly where I was 48 hours ago, staring at a screen that proved his entire life was a carefully constructed lie. "I'm so sorry, Marcus," I said softly. "I didn't want to blast this out blindly, but you deserve to see the actual invoices. My husband was using my corporate bonuses to fund her lifestyle while you were working 60 hours a week." Marcus let out a bitter laugh. "The joke is, Maya, she told me her parents gave her the money for that apartment deposit because they wanted to help us out. She took your husband's stolen cash, put it into a secret account, and used it to secure a luxury lease right downtown, telling me she was just staging it for her high-end clients. She's been living a double life right under my nose." We stayed on the phone for nearly an hour, two corporate professionals trading data points like battlefield commanders. Marcus told me that Chloe was currently screaming in their bedroom, trying to claim the receipts were photoshopped, but the bank statements and the matching handwriting in Tyler's leather ledger were impossible to deny. By the time I hung up, Marcus had already packed his things and left for a hotel, promising to file for divorce first thing Monday morning. But the real circus started on Monday morning at Tyler's high school. You see, when you email the entire school board and the athletic director a beautifully formatted PDF containing proof of financial fraud, secret ledger entries, and workplace misconduct, the HR department doesn't just schedule a meeting. They launch a full-scale corporate evacuation. I received an email from a colleague who works in the city administration. She told me that Tyler showed up to the gym at 7:30 a.m. in his usual whistle and athletic shorts, completely oblivious to the digital bomb that had detonated over the weekend. By 8:15 a.m., two security guards and the principal marched right onto the basketball court, cut his whistle off his neck in front of the entire junior varsity team, and escorted him straight out of the building. He wasn't just suspended, honey. He was fired on the spot for violating the moral turpitude clause in his teaching contract, and the school board was already discussing whether to report his systematic cash withdrawals to local law enforcement for grand larceny. Tyler's entire boyish charm network completely vanished in less than an hour. He went from the town's favorite golden retriever coach to an absolute social pariah whose name was being whispered in every teacher's lounge in the county. Later that afternoon, Brenda tried to make one last desperate stand. She didn't call me. She knew better than to face the audit again. But she sent a massive, rambling text message that looked like a novel written by a manic keyboard warrior. She claimed that because of my cruel, unchristian exposure, Tyler was now sleeping on her small living room couch. His credit cards were completely frozen, and he couldn't even afford to buy groceries or gas for his car. She actually had the nerve to write, "You have ruined a young man's entire future over a petty bank account dispute. If you have any decency left, you will transfer his half of the savings back so he can pay his legal fees." I didn't even type a response, honey. I simply took a screenshot of her text, added it to a digital folder labeled Harassment and Legal Records, and forwarded it straight to my divorce attorney with a single sentence. "Please include a permanent restraining order against both parties in the final filing." When you play high-stakes games with a woman who builds optimization models for a living, you don't get to ask for a refund when your strategy fails. Tyler thought he could bleed me dry because I was too busy working to notice the leak, but he forgot that a leaking ship always sinks the cargo first. I blocked Brenda's number right after forwarding that screenshot to my lawyer, honey. But if you think a man like Tyler just slinks away into the shadows and accepts his losses, you don't know the anatomy of a narcissist. 2 weeks after the dinner blowout, my attorney called me with an update. Tyler had finally gotten himself a cheap, strip mall lawyer using a credit card Brenda had co-signed for him. They were trying to contest the quitclaim deed, claiming he signed it under marital duress, and demanding a 50-50 split of the townhouse equity. I actually laughed out loud over the phone. Marital duress? I asked my lawyer. He signed that paper because he didn't want his tanked credit score from 3 defaulted jet ski loans to ruin our refinancing rate. My lawyer, who is an absolute shark, just chuckled. Don't worry, Maya. We have the notary records, the bank logs, and a paper trail showing he hasn't contributed a single dollar to the mortgage payment since 2023. But that's not the best part. Marcus's divorce lawyer just reached out to me. Oh, honey, the plot thickens. It turns out Marcus wasn't just walking away quietly either. Because Chloe had used Tyler's stolen cash to put a down payment on that downtown luxury lease under her real estate LLC, Marcus was suing her for hiding marital assets. And since Tyler's handwriting in that black ledger perfectly matched the exact dates and amounts deposited into Chloe's business account, Tyler was officially subpoenaed as a key witness in their high-value divorce case. Tyler went from being a gym coach to being dragged into a multi-million-dollar real estate lawsuit as the broke, exposed co-conspirator. Marcus's lawyer told my team that Chloe was furious. The moment she realized Tyler lost his job, his townhouse, and his access to my bank account, she completely blocked him on everything. She actually filed a statement claiming Tyler was stalking her and that the money he gave her was an unsolicited gift from an obsessed fan. Let that sink in, honey. The woman Tyler spent 5 years stealing from his wife to support, the woman he claimed needed him to feel like a man, threw him under the bus the absolute millisecond his cash flow dried up. He was sitting on Brenda's cramped sofa, eating microwaved meals, while his glamorous mistress was telling a judge that he was basically just a creepy loser who kept giving her money. The first court date for our divorce was set for late August. I showed up looking immaculate in a tailored cream suit, holding a sleek leather briefcase containing nothing but clean, indexed data. Tyler showed up looking like he had aged 10 years. The dimples were completely gone, replaced by deep, dark circles under his eyes. He was wearing a wrinkled suit he had clearly pulled out of a duffel bag, and Brenda was sitting right behind him in the gallery, clutching her purse like it was the last defense against the apocalypse. Before the judge even sat down, Tyler's strip mall lawyer pulled my attorney into the hallway. They were completely dropping the demand for the townhouse equity. They realized that if they pushed the case to a full trial, I was going to introduce the full financial audit into the public record, which would give the district attorney everything they needed to upgrade his school firing into actual criminal charges for grand larceny. My client is willing to sign the dissolution papers today, unconditional waiver of all property claims, his lawyer muttered, not even looking us in the eye. But he wants a non-disclosure agreement regarding the financial logs. He wants the PDF removed from the public record. I stepped forward before my lawyer could even answer. The PDF stays exactly where it is, I said, my voice echoing in the marble hallway. I won't sue him for the $55,000 he stole, because frankly, my time is worth more than his life savings. But I will never sign away my right to tell the truth. He signs the unconditional waiver in the next 5 minutes, or we walk into that courtroom and I show the judge the Ritz-Carlton receipts. Tyler's lawyer looked at his client, then back at me, realizing they had absolutely zero leverage. Tyler just stared at the floor, his shoulders slumped, completely broken. 5 minutes later, right there on the wooden bench in the hallway, his trembling hand signed the unconditional waiver. He walked away with absolutely nothing. No house, no savings, no job, and a reputation that was permanently scorched. As I walked out of the courthouse into the bright afternoon sun, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Marcus. Just finished my initial filing. Chloe's LLC is being audited. Thank you for the data, Maya. I owe you a drink. I smiled, replying with a simple thumbs-up emoji. The data had done its job, the trash had been thoroughly discarded, and for the first time in 5 years, the balance sheet of my life was completely balanced. But if you think a narcissist like Tyler stays quiet forever, honey, you don't know how desperate a broke man can get when reality finally hits him. A month after the divorce was finalized, I was sitting on my balcony enjoying a quiet evening when a long notification popped up on my phone. It was an email from a brand new, unverified account, but the grammar and the desperation had Tyler's digital footprint all over it. Maya, please, I know you hate me, the email read. But you have to help me. The school board is threatening to pull my teaching license permanently. I can't get a job anywhere in the county. Brenda's landlord is threatening to evict her because I can't help with the rent anymore, and Chloe's lawyers are trying to blame me for her tax fraud. You won, okay? You took everything. Just please release a statement saying the ledger was a misunderstanding. I'm begging you. I leaned back in my chair, taking a slow sip of my tea, feeling absolutely zero pity. He wasn't sorry for the 5 years of systematic theft, honey. He wasn't sorry for looking me in the eye and blaming inflation while spending my hard-earned bonuses on hotel luxury suites. He was just sorry that the subscription to his comfortable, subsidized life had expired, and he couldn't afford the renewal fee. I didn't reply to the email. Instead, I did what any good digital growth strategist does with spam. I selected the message, clicked Report Phishing, and blocked the domain. Welcome back to Aunt Karma Stories, honey, where we track the metrics that actually matter. Tyler thought he could play a high-stakes game of hide-and-seek with a woman who builds optimization models for a living, but he forgot the ultimate rule of the digital age. Everything leaves a footprint, and every single invoice eventually comes due. Drop a comment below if you think he got exactly what he deserved, or tell me if you would have gone even harder on him and Brenda. These days, the townhouse feels bigger, cleaner, and a whole lot wealthier now that I'm not financing a secret family on the side. My marketing agency just cleared its highest performing quarter in company history, and my personal savings account is growing at a rate that has absolutely nothing to do with inflation. Because when you stop letting parasites drain your energy and your bank account, honey, your ROI skyrockets. Look after your heart, keep your circle tight, but most importantly, always audit the ledger. It was exactly 3 weeks after I reported Tyler's desperate email as phishing when the final, ugly climax of this entire saga literally landed on my doorstep. I was coming back from a late-night cardio session, my mind focused entirely on my upcoming agency expansion, when I noticed a car idling at the edge of my driveway with its headlights completely turned off. As soon as I closed my car door, the driver's side door of the idling vehicle slammed open, and Brenda stepped out into the dim streetlight, looking completely disheveled, her hair messy and her voice shaking with a terrifying mix of rage and pure panic. "You think you're so smart, don't you, Maya?" she shrieked, marching right into my front yard, waving a crumpled piece of yellow paper in the air like a weapon. "You sit up there in your expensive townhouse, playing God with your little spreadsheets, while my son's life is completely destroyed. Look at this. This is an eviction notice. We have 30 days to vacate my apartment because Tyler can't cover the lease, and no school in the entire state will even look at his resume. You did this to us with your wicked, heartless lies." I didn't even flinch, honey. I stood right by my car, locked the doors with my key fob, and looked at her with the cold, analytical stare of a data auditor checking a broken line of code. "I didn't write his secret diary, Brenda," I said, my voice completely flat and unbothered. "I didn't force him to withdraw $55,000 of my money, and I certainly didn't force him to spend it on another man's wife. Tyler evicted both of you the exact moment he decided to treat my bank account like a public charity fund for his mistress." Brenda let out a horrific, choked sob, dropping her arms as all the fake, arrogant matriarch energy completely evaporated out of her, leaving nothing but the raw, pathetic desperation of a caught enabler. "Maya, please," she begged, her voice dropping to a cracked whisper as she actually took a step toward me with her hands clasped together. "He's sleeping on a mattress on my living room floor. He's taking antidepressants, and Marcus's lawyers are threatening to sue him personally for $20,000 in damages for ruining their real estate LLC's reputation. If you don't sign a statement saying the ledger was just a joint budget misunderstanding, they are going to ruin him forever. He's 28, Maya. His whole career is gone." Welcome back to Aunt Karma Stories, honey, where the enablers always want you to show the Christian grace they never possessed when they were happily spending your stolen money. Look at her, begging for mercy on the very driveway she used to park her car on while making slick comments about my wifely duties. Drop a comment below if you've ever seen a more satisfying case of instant financial karma. I took a slow step forward, letting the porch light hit my face so she could see the absolute finality in my eyes. Listen to me very carefully, Brenda, I whispered, each word cutting through the quiet night air like a scalpel. The data is ironclad. The school board made their choice based on his actions, and Marcus is suing based on the facts. If you step onto my property again, or if Tyler sends one more anonymous email to my inbox, I won't just let the civil courts handle him. I will personally go to the county precinct, hand the district attorney the original leather notebook, and press formal charges for grand larceny. Do you want to see your golden retriever son in a tailored business suit, or do you want to see him in an orange jumpsuit? Because that is the only choice you have left to make tonight. Brenda stared at me, her mouth open, realizing for the very first time that her tears, her guilt trips, and her family values lectures had absolutely zero currency in my world. She slowly backed away, got into her fading sedan, and sped down the street, leaving me alone in the quiet dark. I walked into my house, locked the heavy front door, and checked my security system monitors. The trash was officially trying to negotiate a settlement, but as every good growth strategist knows, you never reinvest in a failing product. And that, honey, was the absolute end of the line for Tyler and Brenda. 2 weeks after Brenda's midnight meltdown on my driveway, my attorney called to inform me that Tyler had officially declared personal bankruptcy. Marcus's legal team had completely backed him into a corner, and with zero income and a blacklisted teaching license, he couldn't even afford the gas to drive to a job interview at a local car wash. He and Brenda pack-wrapped their entire lives into a rusted rental truck and moved back to his hometown to live in his aunt's basement, completely broke, completely exposed, and permanently toxic. As for Chloe, Marcus didn't show her an ounce of mercy either. He used the digital audit file I provided to secure a massive fault-based divorce settlement, taking the Luxury Real Estate LLC, the downtown apartment lease, and leaving her to pay off her own fraudulent business debts. I sat on my balcony on a crisp autumn evening, looking out over the city's skyline with a glass of crisp white wine in my hand, feeling the incredible, weightless freedom of a clean balance sheet. My digital marketing agency had just been featured in a regional business journal for crossing a major revenue milestone, and my team was expanding into a brand new downtown office space that I bought completely in cash. The 5 years of gaslighting, the slick comments from Brenda, and the agonizing 60-hour work week spent funding a parasite's secret lifestyle were officially reduced to nothing more than a tax write-off and a valuable lesson in operational security. Welcome back to Aunt Karma Stories, honey, where the data never lies, the metrics always align, and the bad investments eventually get liquidated. Tyler thought he could treat a smart, independent woman like an unlimited line of credit without ever checking the expiration date, but he forgot the absolute golden rule of social math. When you play games with a growth strategist, the house always wins, and the audit is going to cost you everything. Drop a final comment below if you loved watching this entire narcissistic house of cards collapse under the weight of its own receipts. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe so you never miss another breakdown of sweet statistical justice. Look after your peace, invest heavily in your own potential, and remember, honey, protect your heart with everything you've got, but always, always hold the keys to the kingdom. See you in the next story.